yarn. I'm using Loops and Threads floral yarn here. I can't remember the name of this color. What is this? Iris, maybe? This is a size 6 bulky yarn. Yeah, Iris Blossom, that's the name of this one. And then you'll need a hook appropriate for your yarn. I'm going to use a 5mm hook for this particular project. You will also need some scissors and a needle, darning needle, stitch marker, and some stuffing. I like these bent darning needles. It's personal preference for me. One of my stitch markers. And then the stuffing I use is polyfill. So you'll need some of that. Okay, so that's our materials. Now we can get started. We're going to start with a magic ring, and we're going to put 6 single crochets into the magic ring. You want to start, if you're using this chenille yarn particularly, you want to start with your singles as kind of on the looser side. You don't want to be like completely loose with it, but if it's a little bit looser, it just makes it easier to close that magic ring once you've got your 6 stitches in place. So there's our 6, and then we'll pull gently on the tail to close the magic ring, just like that. And then place your stitch marker in the stitch you just completed, the last stitch of the round. And I apologize for any fumbling you may see in this video. It's a little bit more difficult to do things like with your arms around a camera stand. Alright, so the next round you're going to do an increase in each stitch around, so that means putting 2 single crochets in each stitch around the circle, and you should end up with 12 single crochets at the end of the round. Okay, getting into the last one, we're going to put 2 single crochets in this last one as well. I had to pull a little extra yarn out of my ball over there. And then we're going to move our stitch marker to the last stitch of the round we just completed. Okay, for the next round, we're going to do 1 single crochet and then an increase, and follow that pattern around for a total of 18 stitches. So we'll do 1 in this next one, and then 2 in the one after that, and then 1 in the next one, and 2 in the one after that, and we'll continue that pattern as we work our way around the circle. And now we're down to the last pairing, so single and two singles in the last stitch, or rather an increase in that last stitch, and we will move our stitch marker again to the final stitch of the round we just completed. Okay, for round 4, we're going to work the pattern of 2 single crochets and then an increase. We're going to do a single crochet, then in the next one another single crochet, and then 2 single crochets into that third, and continue that pattern. So single crochet, and then 2 single crochets into this one stitch. And continue on around. We should have 24 stitches by the end of this round. And sometimes my hook gets a little stuck there. Okay, coming up on the last stitch of this round, an increase again in that very last stitch, and then moving the stitch marker. Okay, now we are going to just put a single crochet in each stitch around for the next 4 rows. So it'll be 24 stitches per round for 4 rounds. I gotta pull my yarn out here. Y'all have to let me know if you like this way of doing it where I have a little bit of a voiceover rather than just having the instructions written on the side of the screen. Or if you don't want all the chatter and you would rather just a little bit of background music and then like the instructions, because I can do either way. Okay, coming up to the end of round 5, we're going to begin round 6 and go around again, and that'll be the second of our 4 times around. I thought about cutting this out and doing sort of a skip jump, you know, one of those I'll meet you back here when you've got that finished kind of thing. But I thought some people might prefer to have it where they could actually just crochet along with me in real time. That's why I left all this in. Of course, if you don't enjoy having this extra bit in and you just want to get to the next step, you can always fast forward or, you know, speed up the video or whatever you want to do. This pattern is also available as a PDF on my Etsy and my Ko-fi or Ko-fi or however you say that. I don't even know. So if you don't want to listen to me at all and you just want to follow written instructions, that option is available to you also. Okay, so that was 2 of the 4 rounds. 2 more to go. If I can get my stitch marker to unhook, there we go. I made that stitch marker and it was sort of a prototype while I was kind of figuring out how I wanted them to work and how I wanted them to look. And I think I made the little loop up by the alligator clasp too tight, maybe? Because sometimes it gets like stuck out at an angle from the base of the alligator clip, if that makes any sense. Like it doesn't dangle freely, it gets like wedged. So you know how it is. When you're trying something new, you get to keep all of the not so great prototypes, and you save the perfect ones for future customers. Alright, coming up on the end of the third time around, so now we have one more row. I also feel like keeping all this stuff in kind of gives you a realistic expectation of how long a pattern like this will take to make. Because sometimes when you see those YouTube videos and it's, you know, a 20-minute video with a tutorial, but they've got all those skips in there, you don't realize that it's going to be, you know, an hour and a half or 2 hour long pattern, and they've just skipped out a whole bunch of things. Okay, that is the end of the fourth round. So now we're going to begin row 9. We're going to start shaping. So we're going to do a single crochet and a decrease, and we're going to do that 3 times in succession. So single crochet, and then we're going to decrease over the next 2, and then single crochet, decrease over the next 2, single crochet, decrease over the next 2. So that's for 3 repetitions of that. Then we're going to do 2 single crochets. So 1, oh, I got ahead of myself, I think. But you can see how it's sort of starting to make that shape in there. Now we're going to do the 2 single crochets. Yeah, 1, 2. And then we're going to do a single crochet and an increase for 3 repetitions. So single and increase. Single and increase. Single and increase. And then 2 singles. And that's starting to create that little back of the head bulge that you see in the finished pattern. Okay, then for round 10, we're going to continue shaping. You can sort of start to see that angle. So for round 10, we're going to do 2 single crochets and then a decrease all the way around. So that's 1, 2, and a decrease. One, 2, and a decrease. One, 2, and a decrease. If I can get it in there. I don't know if you can tell, but this is literally just raw footage of me making this thing. It is by no means perfect, and even after doing it all these years, I still struggle sometimes. And there's our final decrease. And you can kind of see how that shape is continuing to form. We're about to add another row of particularly shaping stitches. And you'll really start to see that shape take form. So we're going to do a single crochet and a decrease times 3. There's 1 and a decrease. 1 and a decrease. 1 and a decrease. And then we're going to do 2 regular single crochets. So that's 1 and 2. And then we're going to do the single crochet increase. So, and that'll be 3 times of that one. So single crochet and an increase. Single crochet increase. And then single crochet increase for the 3rd time. Now you should really start to see a distinct angular shape forming there. And you can kind of see how that back bulb of the head is going to be. And move our stitch marker again. And now we're going to do another decrease to make that hole a little bit smaller. So 2 single crochets and then 2 decreases. And it's just kind of finalizing that little bit of shaping right there at that back part of the head. And then we're going to single crochet 12 times to get us back to our stitch marker again. For some reason I had a hard time finding that stitch, looks like. Okay, back to the beginning of the row. And then we'll move our stitch marker. That's what I mean about it, like getting wedged outward, and then I have a hard time reaching the alligator clasp. It only happens on this one. I managed to fix that with the future ones. Alright, so that's pretty much finished with the head part. You're going to be working on the tentacles next, but first you want to go ahead and add in safety eyes if you're going to use them. So this is the front of the head, where the angled part is longer. That's going to be your front. So I kind of squish that flat so I can kind of get a good angle of what the head is going to look like. And I start up there at the magic ring, and I kind of trace my way down that center stitch. And then I count over 2 stitches for one eye, and from that center stitch another 2 stitches for the other eye. So it winds up having about 5 visible stitches between the eyes. can move the eyes a little higher or lower, a little closer or farther apart, as is your preference. This is just where I prefer to have mine. And I'm going to go ahead and secure them in with the washers. Again, how you want to secure your eyes is up to you. If you want to just make the whole thing and then glue eyes on afterward, that's an option as well. Sometimes I do that. Alright, so eyes are in. And that is the head complete. So now we're going to work on tentacles. For the tentacles, you're going to be working in the front loop only. And I did not do this in this video, but I would recommend at this point going ahead and putting another stitch marker in that back loop of that stitch right there. You're going to do a single crochet and then you're going to chain 26 out from there. Now the reason I say go ahead and put a stitch marker in that back loop is that we will be coming back to that back loop to close up the body later, and it makes it a lot easier to find. And you'll see how much I struggle with it later, since I didn't do that in this particular example. Alright, so there's our 26 chains. So then that second chain from the hook, we're going to put a single crochet increase. So we're going to do 2 single crochets in that one and in the next 4. So it'll be 5 total increases at the end of each leg. That's what gives it that little bit of a curl. Yeah, once you have those 5 increases, then we're just going to put 1 single crochet into each chain the rest of the way down. So you should wind up with 5 increases and then 20 single crochets all the way back down to the body. Okay. Getting pretty close. Yeah, and then once you've got that final chain, you're going to slip stitch right back into that loop where you'd started from, and that kind of helps prevent gaps. And then you're going to single crochet into the next stitch. Okay, now, if you see my mistake there, I went through both loops. You are supposed to go through front loop only. So you single crochet into the next one, and then you single crochet again, and then off of that one, you make another chain of 26. So do as I say, and not as you just saw me do. Stay in the front loops. Leave those back loops for closing. You can still work a closure later, as you'll see me struggle and fight to do, but it is much harder. And you can kind of customize these tentacles too. Like if you don't want to curl at the end, you could just single crochet all the way back. You can make them shorter if you prefer, longer. You could do bobble stitches and kind of give them a little bit of a suction cup look to them. Or you could even do more increases and make it curlier. So it's just kind of up to you how you want your octopus to look at the end. I liked having just this little bit of a curl at the end. It was kind of reminiscent of the little wedge shaped foot pads that you see at the bottom of squid. And I know it's an octopus and not a squid. I just liked it. And that was just what I liked. Okay, so we did our 5 increases, and now we are single crocheting back down the leg. There we go. And then when you get back down to the body, you're going to slip stitch into the same stitch that you started in to help prevent any gapping. So slip stitch into that same body stitch. Then single crochet into the next. There's a spacer between legs, and then single crochet into the next, and this is where you'll start your next leg. And again, I think I went through both loops there, which I should know better by now. Obviously, I was just in the zone and not paying a whole lot of attention by this point. Now we're going to start our increases, do 5 increases. That was 1 increase, 2 increase, 3 increase, 4 increase, 5 increase. And then we'll do 20 single crochets down the rest of the leg. This is editing Kristen coming in, and I apologize if it sounds completely different. This is the point that my microphone apparently died, and I didn't realize it for like a full 10 minutes after this point. So there's some audio that was lost. So I'm just kind of coming back to try to fix that. It looks like working on legs. Yeah, this is just doing the single crochets down the leg to the body. And then when it reaches the body, we will do a slip stitch back into that same stitch that we started in. I do this in particular to prevent there being any gaps on the body. Sometimes when you chain away and then come back to for different body parts, if you just move on to the next stitch, it'll leave like a little bit of a hole there, and I don't like that. So I slip stitch back into the same stitch we started in, and then we're going to single crochet into the next one and single crochet into the next one, and it looks like, I think probably for the rest of this I remembered to go front loop only, so it looks like there were only maybe 2 legs where I'd completely spaced on that, but it does make things difficult for me later on. So at this point, since I don't really remember what all I said for the rest of these legs, I am going to go away and just watch and listen to some music along with you until we get to the point where we're going to start closing things up. So I will see you when we get there. Okay, here we are back at the end of the last tentacle. So you should have 8 tentacles by this point. And we are now going to stuff the octopus. So you don't need a whole lot of stuffing, just a little bit. And you can see how I pull up the loop there. That kind of helps keep it from pulling loose and unraveling any of your stitches while you work on this. And kind of get your hook out of your way. So you want to stuff it fairly firmly, but you don't want to overstuff because you don't want it to stretch those stitches apart and leave holes. I like to kind of push it down in, and then I go like around the sides and make sure that it's in all of the like nooks and crannies, and then I'll go back and I'll add more stuffing after that until it's kind of filled out its shape the way that I like it. I'm one of those creators that tends more towards overstuffing than understuffing. I like a firm plushie, but if you would rather it be really kind of soft and cuddly, or even more like a baby lovey or something like that, you can always do less stuffing and just have it very lightly stuffed. Okay, then once I'm happy with how much it's stuffed, we're gonna go back to that loop that we pulled up and reinsert the hook. Here I am just kind of checking the shape, make sure it's filled out the way I want it to. Okay, so getting back to our loop, making sure not to accidentally tug on the tail and undo any stitches. So for this one, we're going to do the back loop only of that previous round, which is why I said before to put a stitch marker there to make this part easier. So the back loop only of that previous round, we're going to just decrease around to start closing in this hole here. So yeah, there's the back loop. It's not super easy to see. Definitely is easier when you use a stitch marker. Also, I don't know if you remember, but for the first two whole legs, I forgot to do front loop only and went in both loops. So now I'm like, where's my back loop? I can't find it. I don't see it. You can kind of find stitches to work into to close it up at this point, which is what I wind up having to do because I didn't leave myself a back loop. So I had to kind of find that loop and work into it alongside the stitch that's already there, which is what you see me struggling to do there. So in this particular case, do as I say and not as I do. Put your stitch marker in that back loop when you start that front loop only leg round, and don't get distracted. Make sure you're in the front loops. Alright, so there we go. There's a decrease. Finally got it. Now we're going to do another one. Should be a total of 8 decreases around at this point. Alright, so now I'm going to have to struggle through the next one because again I went through both loops instead of the front loop only on that one leg. Yep, there we go. And struggling again. Find another spot. Sorry you can't really see it. I was trying to angle it so where I could see it, which kind of put it out of view of the camera. Alright, but there's the second decrease. Let's see, I think I went back to the front loops only at this point, so it should be easier from here on, or I may have had one more back loop filled in. I'm not sure. And there we go, third decrease. Yeah, there's a back loop. It's a little easier to see. Maybe. I think this was the point that I finally realized what I had done to myself. And I was probably rassing myself under my breath at this point, knowing that no audio was going to make it into the original video. There we go. Now it's getting to be a little easier to find those back loops. I think that makes a total of, what is that, 4 or 5 decreases at this point. Also a little harder to do, like I said, going around the camera stand to try to make sure it stays in frame. It's just kind of an awkward way to crochet, you know? And there we go. I think that made number 7, so this should be the final decrease here. I think my original loop keeps slipping off my hook or something at this point. That's why I'm having such a hard time. Oh, almost had that one. There we go. Yes, there we go. That was 8 decreases around. Now you can see how the hole is almost closed. So we're going to go ahead and cut the yarn at this point. I like to wrap it twice around the hole to make sure I have a long enough tail. It may be a little overkill, but I would rather have extra than not enough. Kind of snug that up a little bit. And then we're going to get our tapestry needle and we are going to thread the tail end of that yarn through the needle. Okay, so we got it threaded on, and then we are going to go into the next stitch. We're going to go front loop only. But I like to go from the outside to the inside, front loop only, and then inside to outside, front loop only. And I alternate like that. I don't know that it makes a huge difference, but it feels like a cleaner closure to me, and that's why I do it this way. It's always the front loops, and I alternate whether I'm going from the inside to the outside or the outside to the inside, just going back and forth until I've gone all the way around through all 8 stitches. I think that makes the 8th one right there. And then just very gently pull it closed until you have a nice smooth closure. And then I'm going to slip it under a couple of stitches. Gently tie a little bit of a knot right there to kind of help keep it from coming loose. Snug that down. And then I'm going to tie a knot in the yarn itself. And you see how I kind of use my fingers to guide that yarn to where the knot is as close as possible to the body of the octopus. And I'm going to do it a couple of times so the knot is a little bit fatter than like the width of the space between stitches. I kind of went off camera, I'm sorry. But there's that little knot on the end of it. So then when I put the needle through and stick it out of the body somewhere, there it is, and pull it all the way through, I make sure to pull that knot past the stitches so that the knot goes to the inside of the body. I'm sorry, that's out of frame a little bit. And then I will cut off the excess yarn, and that extra little knot just helps keep it from slipping back out between the stitches. I actually learned that from a Rose and Lily YouTube tutorial on one of their turtle tutorials. And there you have it. Olivia the octopus, all finished. You can add blush at this point. You can add little accessories. I've been adding little flowers to the top of Olivia's head, and I think if I do another Oslo, I may add a bow tie. That's it. There she is with her little flower accessory, and you're finished.